One thing that stood out to me about today's Chicago Bears presser is that Coach Nagy and GM Ryan Pace were non-committal on picking up Mitch Trubisky's fifth-year option. It's surprising because his fifth-year option is around the same price for a service for backup, unless they're discussing or pondering trading the kid or extending him. It's quite alarming why they didn't just outright say that they were picking that option up. Maybe they don't want to say that right away because in order to entice a free agent to come there, they have to give them the opportunity to start. However, they did say that Mitch was our starter, but picking up his fifth-year option is where the truth lies. Always follow the money. And them not saying this tells me, A, they're leaving the door open for a free agent or a young quarterback to come in and compete with Mitch, but they're not going to commit to him for a starter salary for that fifth-year option level monetarily. I know it's contradictory, but it's a mind game, and we know that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are great at mind games, especially when it comes to advertising the Chicago Bears to free agents and to new parties to join our team. They didn't have this non-committal tendency when it came to Leonard Floyd. They pretty much picked up his fifth-year option immediately. They also pretty much stated that they were happy with his production, Leonard Floyd. And I am too. Is Leonard Floyd a $13 million a year player? No, he is not. Is he a serviceable outside linebacker? Hell yes. Is he an athletic linebacker who can drop into coverage, who can give you some pass rush? Yes, he is. And that's exactly what we need him to be. We need him to be a two-down linebacker. And we need to bring somebody else in who we thought was Aaron Lynch, that fat ass, to come in and rush the quarterback on passing downs. I think if they bring it to the table and restructure his contract, Leonard Floyd will be a pretty good staple in our defense, a pretty good foundation in our defense on non-passing downs, or even on some passing downs, but he is an athletic linebacker that you don't normally get rid of if you don't have to. Suffice to say, I don't want that $13 million a year contract, and I'm pretty sure Pace, and Nagy don't either. This press conference was entirely offensive based. Seeing as how all of our firings were mostly on the offensive side, despite the special teams assistant, I'm going to pretty much go out on a limb and say that our offseason is going to be offensively geared or offensively led, focused. Pat Shermer is out there. Mike Kafka will probably be brought aboard. I'm surprised that Ragone is still on this staff. His job should have been tied to Mitch's regression. So the fact that he has a job is quite alarming. But maybe Pace has something in store. He is a very calculative GM. He doesn't do things immediately. So I can keep an eye open or an ear open about what Ragone's role would be if he's still hired by the Chicago Bears before June. The injury news, or the injury updates rather, were quite alarming as well. Mostly because they seem to still be making excuses for Trey Burton and Adam Shaheen. Trey Burton had hip surgery, which I can understand can be detrimental to his offensive output, but he's constantly hurt. And making what he's making, if he doesn't restructure his contract, with his lack of availability, he has to go. Shaheen has no place on this team. He is not available. He is not motivated to be a Chicago Bear. He's not motivated to play professional football. This is what happens when you take guys who haven't been football players for most of their lives, and they just try to capitalize on that athletic gifts, but they don't have that drive. They don't have that heart it takes to play football on any level. When things don't go their way, they tense up. Subconsciously, they get injured, or they injure themselves, or they make themselves susceptible to injury. So Shaheen has to go, and I really hope, even though he's still on his rookie contract, even though he's still employed by the Chicago Bears, he is not on this team starting next season. And if you get rid of Shaheen, then you have to get rid of Burton. You just have to. There's no sense in carrying on that salary if you don't have to for someone who isn't on the field. You might take a hit this year in 2020, but you'll have that relief, or you'll see that relief in 2021. I don't quite know how it's going to work out if he's a June 1st cut with no CBA. So it'll be interesting, but it can be done. It has to be done. Our tight end room needs to be more aggressive. It needs to be more athletic, and it needs to be more available. So those two names should be omitted from the Chicago Bears immediately. And we'll see what happens in the coming weeks, in the coming months about that position. But if Nagy and Pace don't make that decision quickly, we're going to miss out on a few names and a few bodies that could possibly help our team. I'll make another podcast edition on my mock draft, or my mock offseason a little later. But I will address the tight end position. I want to go with the best available approach, offensively centered mock draft, mock offseason. And one of those names that I've omitted is Trey Burton. I can tolerate a Shaheen at a 1.5 because I know someone out there is going to want to trade for him for a 6th, 7th round pick just on his athleticism and size alone. So they're going to get baited into what we get baited with, is falling in love with his size. But maybe we can get somebody to bite on a tight end or a player who really isn't interested in playing football. Someone's going to try to fix him. Anthony Miller is going to have to go through another offseason surgery on the same shoulder he hurt last year, which is sad and hurtful because he played his ass off this year. And despite some slight regression at the beginning of the year, he seemed to catch wind towards week 11 and forward. And I really look forward to seeing this young man progress. He is the type of wide receiver that we need on this offense. Dynamic, great route runner. He often gets lost on the field sometimes or runs the wrong route. But I could imagine that a healthy offseason would do wonders for him mentally. This shoulder is just not giving him a break, and I hope it's not the type of thing that would end his career or make it more difficult for him to be the next level player that I think he can be. But it's sad to see him lose another offseason rehabilitating from an injury that seems to have haunted him since his Memphis days. So moving forward, we'll be looking for an offensive coordinator. We'll be looking for an online coach, a tight ends coach, and probably a quarterback's coach, depending on what they do with Pagone. But I really want Shermer. I really want Callahan as offensive line coach. I'd really entertain the idea of John DeFilippo if he's our QB coach and only our QB coach. Even if he's part of the pass game coordinator, brain trust, I'm okay with that. But I don't want him anywhere near our offensive coordinator slot because he's too much like Nagy, too pass happy and not balanced at all. So we'll see what this offseason brings. Bless up and bear down.